I will call to order the February 3rd, 2026 Board of Trustees of College of the Redwoods meeting. Please join me in pledge in honor of those serving our country. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We share our land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that College of the Redwoods is located on the unceded territory of the Wiyot, Koopa, Karuk, Mattole, Talawa, Wailaki, and Yurok people, where they have resided from time immemorial. We encourage all to gain a deeper understanding of their history and thriving culture. As an expression of our gratitude, we are genuinely committed to developing trusting, reciprocal, and long-lasting partnerships with the Wiyot people, as well as all of our neighboring tribes. It's a time for public comment. Do we have any public comment? There are none. And we move on to item 3 with board member comments. We have board members who would like to make comments. Trustee Pedrati.
On January 23rd, I traveled to Sacramento to attend the effective trusteeship and board care workshops along with fellow trustee Biggin. And those workshops are always so valuable. It's valuable experience, and I'd like to thank the board for approving us to go. I have a written report for each board member in front of you, and I had a few takeaways. In one of the workshops, we were asked what we believe to be our biggest challenge this year as trustees. We mentioned hiring a new president. We learned several other colleges are also looking to hire new presidents. So this may be a bigger challenge than what we anticipated. We learned California community colleges serve the most diverse student population in the nation. Under budget and finance, we were told to put money into dual enrollment and online classes. AI, which we are, yes. So that was good to hear. We're doing good things. Under AI, they mentioned it's critical to work together in all areas of the campus and to use guardrails. They said to beware of some of the issues AI can cause. They mentioned an example, like AI can mistakenly generate a letter saying to a student that they have cheated. And so this becomes a crisis for the student and can lead to, a breakdown, or they may want to leave the campus. So they said we need to be on the alert of issues. So I thought that was interesting. And that's about all. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board comments? Trustee Biggin?
Thank you. In addition to the comments that Trustee Pedrati made, I wanted to point out a couple of takeaways that I noticed at the conference. When she was talking about the letter, they were demonstrating how to make a bot that would take your letter and go through and make it sensitive and kind and friendly, and ways that you can massage, the kinds of letters that you're writing to meet the students' needs. The AI workshop that we attended, I thought was so interesting because they talked about this potential for silos within the district where each department's kind of dealing with AI at their in their own department and their own issues. And so they were talking about the board kind of needs to ensure that there's an oversight or an overview that links everybody together. And so one of the handouts that you have is the questions trustees should consider asking about AI in terms of people, culture, facilities, governance, technology, operations, academics, sustainability. And I thought, you know, this is from Foothill de Anza, and they're the ones who did the workshop. And I thought this would be something that would really be helpful for us because we need to be sure that we're looking at the big picture. Something else that I thought was interesting in terms of the budget and finance presentation, the district, Los Rios Community College District, which is in the Sacramento area, the Vice Chancellor of Finance said that they use FICMAC's financial health risk analysis scorecard every year, and they attach it to their audit report. And so it becomes a public document, and I thought that was, you know, an interesting piece of information, because I know we've talked about FICMAC in the past when we had budget problems, but I haven't thought about them in the past, and I would be interested to see what that looks like. The other activity I did just today was to walk over to the art gallery to see the faculty and staff exhibit, which is just phenomenal. I understand there is an open house or this Friday, which I won't be able to attend, but they opened it up to all faculty and staff, and there's just such a nice cross section of media and artwork. There's a beautiful cabinet in there, woodwork done by the chef from the kitchen here. Yeah, it just, yeah, there was textiles, there was jewelry, woodworking, ceramics, you know, painting, photography. I mean, it was just super. Then the last thing I did in the middle of January is I again watched the system-wide Chancellor's Office webinar. They were talking about Play Lab and teaching staff how to build bots, which is just so foreign to me. But then they talked about bots in our workshop when we were talking about AI. I guess that's something that is going to be a term that we're going to hear more and more about in the future. So that includes my, one other thing. They gave us this little thumb drive, and all of the league's documents, like the trustee handbook and financial responsibility, all those handbooks are on this tiny little drive. Hopefully we could get a bunch to hand out to all of our trustees, but they're trying not to publish, you know, have to print to as much as they've done in the past. So things are going to come drives in the future. Thank you.
Okay, any others? All right. I met with the policy review committee, and we had our agenda planning, board agenda planning meeting this week with President Plan. Okay, we move on to board committee reports. Trustee Petroni.
Yes, so the Board of Trustees Audit and Finance Committee met right before this meeting to discuss and approve the final audit report and the Measure I audit report. And both of those are under 5.2 later on in this meeting, so we will discuss them and the auditors will be on.
Okay. And Trustee Rice.
We, the ad hoc committee on policy review met via email to address the policies affected by the Brown Act changes and others as well.
And Trustee Morgan, Vice President.
So myself and my co-chair, Dr. Mullery, had a very busy month on our search committee. First, I want to say I really appreciate the team meeting my time schedule when I was in Egypt. Even though Keith did get up in his pajamas to Zoom, It was very sweet, and it was a very productive meeting. It was supposed to run an hour, and it ran an hour and a half. Colleen and I, it's Dr. Mulry, did really well with our consultant, Will. We really hashed out a lot of stuff, a lot of items. And I think I speak for both of us that we really feel that we and the board will work very well with Will, even though I believe he's on Zoom. I don't want to say too much good about him. And so the biggest thing that you want to bring your attention to is the timeline that you have in front of you in your packet. And I appreciate if you could take it out. Julie was and I want to thank Julie for all your help. She ran a pre-Zoom meeting with me, so I made sure that my tablet was working. And so I want to say thank you for that. But Julie did highlight where the board is required to help with the search process. The February 28th meeting cannot be changed. It throws the entire schedule off if it's changed. So that one has to be done. And this schedule has probably been revised, Julie, 5 times, 6 times? 7, okay, 7 times. Dr. Mullery was well aware of that. And it is called the tentative schedule because there are things that could come up that could change it. And I want to say that on February 28th, the workshop is going to be really robust. We have a lot of ground to cover in it. And so have your thinking caps on, and our chief challenge is to build a presidential profile. Dr. Mullery?
Sure. Thank you. I'm on the verge of losing my voice, so maybe if I sound weird, maybe I've always sounded weird. Trustee Dorn thanked us for allowing us to kind of work with his schedule as he was floating down the Nile. Actually, I want to thank Trustee Dorn because if I had been on a vacation in Cairo or on the Nile, I don't know that I would have been so focused on the presidential speech. And indeed you were. I was really, really impressed. So I want to publicly thank Trustee Dorn for his commitment to this search. And I will say that Trustee Dorn and I go back a few years together. I mean, on the board. And I think we know how to work with each other. And as a consequence, I think it's a really good partnership. So I am very pleased to be co-chairing with Trustee Dorn. I'm really pleased with all the work that he has been putting into this project. Again, while he was on vacation. Excuse me. The only thing, jeez. The only thing I would point out on the timeline is for staff and faculty to be mindful that we are trying to make this. We are making this as absolutely transparent as we possibly can. For searches, certain aspects of searches will always be confidential, like an applicant file. But beyond that confidentiality, we're going to be pretty much an open book. So I'm hoping that you'll pay attention to the timeline and take advantage of those opportunities. Participate in the search. It is our most important hire. I'm not saying that faculty and staff searches are not important. The president of the college is pivotal because he or she really does set the tone for the entire district. So very important search. We really hope that faculty and staff stay engaged and provide us feedback. If you have any questions, you can contact either one of us and we will respond promptly, even if we're on the rail. And we will move forward together. So thank you, Trustee Dorn. It's a pleasure to work with you.
I would like to follow up with something Dr. Mullery said and she point out this February 17th and February 18th dates. Those are for 3 town hall meetings. The times have been set, but I don't know them off the top of my head. 2 are in the boardroom here, and then 1 is in Crescent City. And I believe President Matthews will be attending the one in Crescent City. Will and I will be attending all 3 of them. And there will be an online survey going out asking questions as well, that the whole board will review the results of the town hall meetings and the surveys when we meet at our 28th workshop to build the profile. And the other update is the application committee has been established. And Colleen and I sent out a welcome email to the committee and thanking them for their upcoming service in it. And I will be making individual phone calls to each of the members, thanking them.
Trustee Garrett, I'm sorry, I do have one question. We have a website for the search. I'm not sure if it's up and running yet. It's not, but it will be. HR has been working very closely with us and the tech people. So be on the lookout for that. And I say that because this is one of the important documents that will appear on that search website. And look forward to it coming soon, as I said.
And be sure to put your calendars to September 9th to the 11th are the final interviews for the candidates. So that's, and we don't know what time. I did talk to Julie. Julie will be establishing these meeting times in the future and will be throwing out times, and then we will be able to respond with what we think will work for all of us. Yeah.
I already have a conflict with those days. Are they carved in stone? They can't be like the following week?
Well, we're running out of time with the contact. And the week before was where we originally had them scheduled,
I could do that.
but that was Labor Day.
Well, Labor Day's on.
Right, and so with the late, there was a very large lengthy discussion regarding that. So I don't know, we can talk to President Matthews about what to do, and I believe Will's on the way, but I think we can discuss that. What,
Yeah, I was just saying, by the way, Will is the consultant.
Oh, sorry.
You're working with Community College Search Services. This is the first time we've worked with the search service for a presidential hire. I am so pleased with this collaboration with the search service. One of the many things that it will be able to do is do a significant outreach for potential applicants. So we're anticipating a very rich application pool that would be difficult for us to do with our relatively limited resources, but the source have significant resources. This is what they do. What did you ask me? Was I responding to you?
no, but that's okay.
Okay.
We were just talking about calendaring and what happened.
Oh, and I wanted to make sure people knew who Will was.
Yeah, no, that was my
Reference-
mistake. I apologize.
reference Will. Hey, Will, glad you're there.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay,
I think,
wonderful. Thank you both. And Julie and President Flamer for all of the time and effort that you're devoting to this. Obviously important. Okay, following that report, I'm going to direct President Flamer to ask the ASCR, Academic Senate, CSEA, and the Management Council to make appointments to the search interview committee per policy 2431.
I'm sorry, I thought of another question since trustee Biggin indicated that she may have a conflict. Does do any of the trustees know of other conflicts? I don't want to get into making modifications and then find out that I'm going to go on vacation, which I won't do, but someone might be. So I'm looking around before we start. Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt President Matthews, but I just thought we better get that clear before we start shuffling.
well, I guess, can I?
Go ahead.
Well, so the July board meeting, we'll have a closed session, and that one is to go over the final candidates. And then at that time, the board will have the opportunity to look at all the qualified applicants and make sure that we've been doing our job correctly. And then the board meeting in the 4th will be somewhat of a follow-up to the July closed session, where we'll talk about interview questions, timelines, etc. So just on everybody's scheduling the big ticket items. Thank you, sorry.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to 3.3, status of trustee requests. Any comment, any questions? Okay, that brings us to the consent calendar. Any board member may remove an item from the consent calendar and place it under discussion. Those items would be voted on separately. So we have our consent calendar, 4.1 through 4.6. That any trustee want to pull any item from the consent calendar? Trustee Doyle.
4.3.
4.3. Anything else? Okay, and I would like a motion to approve the consent calendar with the exception of 4.3.
I so move.
I see. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. 4.3, trustee Dorn.
So my question was regarding the contract with Hoopa Valley Tribe for 314. And so my first question is that the same as the last it's a 3-year contract, correct? So has it gone up, down, or from 3 years ago?
Has what gone up?
The price, the 314.
We increased the amount that we give Bupa. Originally, in the last contract, it had, which had 163,750. So we did increase that to 174,000.
Okay.
All right, so that's really the major change of that.
So, and then what's our full-time student up there? What's the ratio? I mean, do we make money off of this or?
The FTS at KT is right around 54.
Okay,
Now, we don't break it down by site.
It rolls into Del Norte, so it's part of Del Norte's operating.
But we don't take a look at it in terms of the revenue and expenditure per site at all. So we just look at it as in the macro for the whole district. Now, we can pull it by location. We just have to be careful what the parameters are in the guardrail and what we ask for that.
because we used to do that
We did.
way back,
Way back, we did.
right?
We did do that.
So the loss, as I understand it, at Klamath is rolled into the loss at Del Norte. Is that correct? When you say the $1 million we lose a year at Del
No.
Norte?
What we did with, when we looked at the revenue and expenditure, Del Norte was part of that process for their strategic plan.
Okay,
So we very carefully looked at what Del Norte expenditure is and what their revenue is, just for the Del Norte campus itself.
so when you did the big report,
We did not roll KT when we just looked at the Del Norte campus. But KT is rolled into when it's grandfathered in for overall FTS, yes. So when we report for the FTS that we report to the district, we have both Del Norte, KT, and some online. To make sure that they hit that grandfathered requisite number. As well as for public.
but not necessarily the loss.
Correct.
I think the effort is not recognize, the effort is to support those as part of the district and not who's making money, who's losing money. It's the district as a whole.
Right, and that's where I hesitate to get into the profit and loss by location. Because we are one district only. Right, and so the district makes money or loses money as a macro. And to start talking about the sites in terms of profit and loss, I understand that, but I lose focus on why we're there.
Right, no,
That's why we always would be careful how we answer the question.
I just think that we should know where we might be losing money. You know, I know the nursing program
correct?
Right, I mean, as an example of what you're saying, we're not gonna go through every program and do that. But I just think, I keep thinking of $1 million up in Del Norte, so that was part of my question here.
May I make a statement? One of the benefits of our presence in Hoopa is the crossover of those students from Hoopa that are now coming to the main campus that didn't used to come to the main campus and that are involved in the sports program. And so a lot of the FDS here on the main campus is really attributed to Hoopa. We don't realize it. And it has a benefit of having that instruction side in Hoopa for outreach.
I think that's true. For all, it's true. We have students in Del Norte who are attending Eureka campus. We have students who start on the Del Norte campus in one program and finish the program here. And it's all part of colleges providing education in the district. And there's many exchanges, faculty working in more than one place. Many exchanges, so that really is a whole piece, in that sense. Okay, yes,
Well, and clearly there are a lot of moving parts, but we also get reimbursed from the charter too, don't we? Money.
What you, I believe, are referring to, that in the past, if there was a low enrolled class and the tribe wanted to keep that class, and they would pay us that balance of whatever it costs. That is no longer in this contract. Because of the cuts that KT has received from Washington DC, they no longer have that extra revenue to be able to quote unquote buy a class. So now that's why we're very, very careful in how we cancel classes in the future.
any further discussion, question? Do I hear a motion to approve 4.3?
I move to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. We move to action items. And the first is 5.1, approve the quarterly financial status report. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. President Flamer,
Thank
Vice
you.
President Morrison, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Again, we send this to the chancellor's office again every 3 months. And usually we have this accompanied with our monthly financial report, but we don't have it this month. But I do want to call your attention to the last page of this document. And here's where the district made note of the challenges that we see moving forward. And that is, of course, we talked about we need to continue building FPS and the uncertainty in the state's budget. Again, it's an art that we try our best to anticipate, but I think that we do very well. Thank you to Vice President Wilson. But also we have to make sure that we continue to grow. Although in the budget revenue, we put a growth factor of 3% in the year. Right now, we are sitting at around 6.9%, 6.1% growth. And which is about 12% over our target in 2019, 12.7%. So the district is doing extremely well. What we have to balance, and we didn't, it kind of implied in this language, we have to balance how much growth we can absorb in unfunded FTS. And Cabinet's been talking about this. I think they're probably tired of me harping on this at Cabinet, but we have to keep our eye on unfunded FTS because we don't want to shut the door. Because it's hard to open that door and expect people to continue to come to CR. It'll take a couple of years if we close the door on someone. So we'll try our best to continue enrolling students, even though we may have some unfunded FTS. And that are my comments.
Trustee Rice.
that was the second sentence of the second point, I think that alluded to the fact that we're relying on this state. So based on what we just said, that in that sentence, does that mean that we expect the state, or it's very likely the state will continue to fund the current, but it'll be the growth that is more greater uncertainty?
Our best case scenario is that the state will continue to fund us what they owe us and fund some portion of growth. We would like to have 100% growth if this happens. Now, where we have problems that the state's uncertainty lies in the fact that we may have deferments because the state borrowed against itself this year. And it looks like they're going to try to borrow money next year as well. At some point, it'll come to roost and the state will have to balance out their budget long term. So right now, we're trying to figure out if the state's going to have what's called a deferral, where they owe us money and they may pay us or not. So we have to anticipate that moving forward.
So you were describing then as an intentional effort to figure out how much growth we could absorb and sustain but there's some point at which that growth may not be feasible for us to maintain under certain circumstances.
You are correct.
And so you guys are grappling with, like, what can
All
we
the
do?
time.
Okay.
All the
If you
time.
don't receive any more money for those new students, at some point, you can't put them all in classes.
Right. So is that I think I'm revealing my ignorance, but
Okay.
it seems like something that could sneak up on everyone, or that you could see out there X number of months. But what's the X number of months where you can kind of anticipate if there's going to be a problem?
We try to look, we have a long-term forecast budget. So we look at least 3 to 5 years down the road. And we constantly get signals, or try to interpret signals from Sacramento about what it looks like the following year.
Thank you.
Trustee Mullen.
So I understand that the state may not necessarily fund growth. But at some point down the road, let's say 2 or 3 years down the road, don't they eventually have to say, this is the size of this district and fund it? Isn't there some recognition at some point?
Yes, it is, but it's incumbent upon the board, quite frankly, to help the administration as you set our priorities for the budget moving forward. Because it's just not funding the FPS, but it's dependent, our contract expenditures are dependent upon the revenue. So the most that we can anticipate ahead of time, then we can start working with our constituent groups and say, okay, here's the budget cliff. We have done this before and we found a way out of it. So as much as we can anticipate that, I think the key for us is to continue to advocate for the budget, for the college, but also telling our story correctly and putting more pressure on Sacramento to fund what they owe each district.
It's
Now,
a crazy
now
system.
my answer's not clear
Yeah,
because I don't have a crystal ball,
yeah.
but we can anticipate it.
I guess I just thought that at some point, there is recognition or acceptance that this is the size of the district and we will fund it. If it's not immediate, maybe, I don't know, 3 years down the road or some period of time. Don't they eventually have to say, oh yeah, this is the size of the district?
Evidently not.
Well, I think it's going to be dependent upon who is in office in November.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Do we have any, so we're currently in 25, 26. Did we have any revenue from 24, 25 that we have not received? Deferred?
Yeah, but we didn't have any deferral money. We do not. We had some.
Yes, we did have some deferral money that had been repaid already. But then the other question was if there was gonna be, we were in a little bit of growth last year. There had been question if there was gonna be enough money statewide to fund, our growth as well as other districts. In December, there was an early report that came out to kind of true up 24-25 revenue. And for our district, they were able to fund, it wasn't a whole lot, I think it was about 150,000. But they were able to fully fund our enrollments as per the formula.
We don't have any referrals not paid at the moment.
That is my understanding.
That's correct.
Okay, good, thank you. Are there any further questions? All those in favor of approving the quarterly financial status report, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And now we go to, accepting the final audit report for our district and for the Measure I. I would like a motion and then we'll have our discussion.
I so moved.
I'll second.
Okay. And we have our auditors with us. That,
Julie?
Yes, that is correct. We should have Stephen Curry on Zoom with us.
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me?
hello. Yes, welcome, thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me. Just to start out, my name's Stephen Curry. I'm one of the audit partners at CWDL, the external auditors. I'm going to go over the results of the financial statements today. So just before I begin, just to thank Julia, her team, and all the different departments throughout the district for all their hard work and ultimately getting us to where we had the positive results of the financials. So with that, I'm going to share the financial statements and feel free to stop me along the way. Can everybody see my screen?
Yeah.
Great. Awesome. So what I'm going to do is just kind of go through the financials. As you can see, it's 87 PDF pages long. I'm not going to go through every single page. I'm just going to go over the layout of the financial statements, kind of how they're set up, and ultimately us as auditors, what we're doing. So we'll start with page 1 of the report, which is the independent auditor's report. This is where we issue our opinion on the financial statements as a whole. So we did issue the unmodified opinion for the district, essentially stating, in our opinion, the accompanying financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the business type activities in aggregate discretely presented component unit of the district as of June 30th, 2025. Just a section down below on the same page is the responsibilities of management. Management's responsible for the fair presentation and preparation of these financial statements in accordance with the accounting principles generally accepted in the United States. Us as auditors, on page 2, the responsibilities, our objective is to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements are free from material misstatements. So that's what we do as auditors. We're auditing those financial statements according to the district trial balance, and then we issue our opinion on the financial statements taken as a whole. After the independent auditor's report, we get into, beginning on page 4, management's discussion analysis. This goes from page 4 to page 10. I'm just going to briefly go through it. This is very high level information that is comparative information from fiscal year 25 versus fiscal year 24. So you'll see some information related to the attendance highlights, a comparison of the balance sheet right here, just as very high major balance sheet categories. Same with the income statement on page 6. All the way through some charts on page 7 and into the economic factors from pages 8 through 10. So this information compares the financials of June 30th, 2025 versus June 30th, 2024. And then it has information for management related to the economic factors that may affect the future. After this section, we get into the basic financial statements, which begins on page 11. Through pages 17. So this is where you have a little bit more detailed information than what you see in the MD&A on the statement of net position. So the breakout of those categories of what makes up current assets, non-current assets, current liabilities, non-current liabilities, and information related to the deferred outflows and inflows of resources. Page after that has information of kind of the ins and the outs on the accrual basis for the operating revenues, expenditures, and non-operating revenues and expenditures. And then the following 2 pages after that, on page 13 and 14, is just the cash flows. So this shows you how did the cash move. So this takes into consideration, accruals, payables, and all of those items. And then on pages 15 through pages 17 in here, we have information related to the district's discretely presented component unit, which is the Redwoods College Foundation. So we have the balance sheet on 15, the income statement on page 16, and cash flows on page 17. And then beginning on page 18, all the way through page 46 is the notes to the financial statements. I'm just going to go through this real briefly. There's a lot of information in here. Starts out with the summary of significant accounting policies on page 18. It briefly goes all the way into some information on the balance sheet items after this, beginning on pages 27 through pages 30, where you'll find information related to cash, accounts receivable, capital assets, accounts payable, and deferred revenues. And then after that, beginning on page 31, we would get into some information related to the district's long-term debt, information over the general obligation bonds, certificate of participation, compensated absences, some of the lease and subscription liabilities. And then after that, beginning on page 34, information related to the what we call the net pension liability, which is the employee retirement systems. So how do we get to that net pension liability? This is just the background information that comes straight from the actuarials that are published online at the CalPERS and CalSTRS level. After that, on page 46, we get into the net OPEB liability, which is also done straight, or page 42, sorry, which is the actuary who does this for the district and essentially comes up with the numbers on how we report the district's OPEB liability, $3.8 million, and the associated outflows and inflows related to that. And that's the majority of what you would see right there in the notes to the financial statements. The next section of the audit report, which is called the required supplementary information, that begins on page 47. So this has 10-year information related to both the OPEB liability and the pensions. For the OPEB, we'll just be presenting 8 years, next year 9 years, and then the following year until we get up to that 10-year of information from when this was required. So the first 2 pages right there have information related to the district's OPEB liability over that history. As you can see, it's been trending downwards. And then beginning on pages 50 and 51, you can see information related to the CalSTRS and CalPERS net pension liabilities and how those have been changing over the years. Then after this section, we get into what's called the supplementary information. This begins on pages 55, and this goes all the way through pages 65. So this is information required from the CDAM, information prepared by management, and us presenting it to the audit reports. So one just to jump forward to, which I like to show, is on pages 62 and pages 63. So this is the reconciliation of how we get from those governmental funds, which you're used to seeing, all the way to those audited financial statements. So we have, the governmental fund balance of $105 million, and then the audited net position of $126 million. Just showing the assets that go in there will bring up those fund balances, and then the liabilities will bring that down. So you can see some of those in there, the depreciable, non-depreciable capital assets, right to use assets, and then really down here, all the information related to those various liability accounts. And then page 63 is just kind of how did those different balance sheet items change throughout the year. So we have the depreciation expense, compensated absence expense, amortization expenses. And then after that, we get into the other independent auditors reports. This begins on page 66. So we had that first opinion that we did on the independent auditors report. So now we get into what we call the first report, which is the independent auditors report on internal control over financial reporting. So what we're saying here is, in addition to auditing the financial figures, we're also looking at the district's internal controls. So we're looking at various samples related to cash disbursements, cash receipts, payroll, HR, and compliance. And with that, we did issue we used this to issue that unmodified opinion on the financial statements. We did not identify any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses. The next report on page 68 is the independent auditor's report on compliance for each major federal program. So what we call this is our single audit. So districts that expend more than $750,000 of federal funds are subject to the single audit, where we are looking at programs that individually spend over 750,000 and rotate them on a every 3-year basis, in addition to testing the student financial aid cluster every year. And with that, we also issued the unmodified opinion, and we had no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses identified. And then the last of the 3 opinions begins on page 71. This is the independent auditor's report on state compliance. So each year, the California Community College's Chancellor's Office issues the contracted district audit manual. And what this is, if you looked on the following 2 pages on page 73, has a list of all the different programs that they want to identify. Does the district offer this? If so, here's the audit procedures that we want you to review and then also report back on whether there was any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses identified under these programs. With that, we also issued the unmodified opinion and did not identify any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses. And just lastly, to wrap that up, on page 75 is a summary of all of this. So as you can see right here, we have the financial statements, the federal awards, and the state awards, where we issued those unmodified opinions and also stated that we did not identify any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in any of those areas, which is very positive for the district. And if we did have anything that we identified as a significant deficiency or material weakness, on the following pages, we would provide information related to what we saw and obtain management's corrective action plan. And with that, that kind of wraps up the summary of the district audit. Does anybody have any questions?
I wonder if there's anyone from the audit committee who has any particular, not necessarily questions, but comments on your discussion. Yes, Mr. Cabrera.
On page 31, when we were talking about the overtime, the liability, the 2.2 million?
Right.
We did discuss.
2.5.
2.5. We did discuss that in the committee and, and got more clarification.
Okay. Anything else? And, go ahead.
And then I think page 62 and 63 were pretty significant, just to bring everybody's attention to it. But the vacation leave that Trustee Petrati talked about was we discussed that for about 15 minutes because it's now under GATSB 101, which was a new bill, and just how we see that in our books or don't see it in our books, essentially. But now we're seeing it on the spreadsheet. It's not really a liability because if somebody quits or retires, we don't pay it out.
Okay.
But we pay it out if they call in sick for a day. So, and I was confused with it in relationship to our main budget and benefits, etc. So that's what we spent a great time. And Dr. Flamer had a favorite page as well.
I did, I was going to mention something when you were finished.
We're handing it off.
Yeah.
Yes.
Call your attention to the final 3 pages, actually.
Oh, yeah.
These are the pages that I particularly pay attention to, and then I go back to a number. And that is that there were no findings, both federal as well as state. And I think those are things that really, quite frankly, we should focus on, is the findings. And I want to really give the appreciation to Vice President Morrison and her staff and all the people that she works with to make sure that that we have no findings. And I remember in the past, we would have significant findings. And we no longer see that. And that's a big accomplishment for us. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes.
And the whole committee thanked them. But the thing that the auditor mentioned was that how well prepared our staff was when they come up, that the staff has already under Vice President Morrison's direction, has everything ready for them to go, is very cognizant of the auditor's time, and just it's a streamlined operation, so to speak.
Yeah.
So thank you again, Vice President Morrison.
Good job, team.
So, is there any, report or summary about the, Measure I report?
Yes, I'll jump into that one now.
Okay,
Perfect. Alrighty. So the next report I'm going to go through is the Measure I General Obligation Bond Fund report. So this is kind of two areas of how we do this audit is the financial audit and then the performance audit. So we'll go over the results of both of those. So similar to the district report, beginning on page 1, we have that independent auditor's report where we're issuing the opinion on the financial statements as it relates just to the Measure I General Obligation Bond Fund. So we did issue the unmodified opinion in there, essentially stating that the financials related to just that bond fund are materially accurate. And then just after that, we get into the financial section here. So as you can see at the end of the year, there was about $78 million of restricted fund balance, which is restricted for future capital projects according to the bond ballot language. On page 5, you can kind of see this year, the issuance of those funds, the $80 million, and the associated expenditures that took place during the year, which is about almost $1.65 million. And then beginning on page 6 is just the notes to the financial statements where we talk about the summary of significant accounting policies related to the bond fund. And then information related to the cash and where it's held in the county treasury and some information related to that bond that was issued. And then lastly, we have that other report, which is the independent auditor's report on page 11 on the internal control. So essentially, just like the district, we're not just looking at that financial statements of the cash that's in there, but we're also looking at the internal controls over how the expenditures are being presented or the transactions are taking place. So we look at a sample of selections related to expenditures, and if there was any type of revenue that was taking place, we look at those. We look at any interest and investment income and all of that information. And if we had any findings related to the financial statements on the next 2 pages, or on pages 13 and 14, we would have any type of findings and recommendations related to that. Then the second part is the performance audit. So the performance audit is where we have done from Proposition 39 in California Constitution procedures in place to say, hey, this is the second part of what you do under Prop 39 bonds is we have this performance audit where we're going to be looking at the issuance of the bond and how ultimately those funds are being expended according to that bond ballot language. So we have this right here, this independent auditor's report on the Proposition 39 compliance, where we're issuing the results of our tests of those controls. So we say it right there in the last paragraph. The results of our test indicated that in all significant respects, the district expended Measure I general obligation bond funds for the year ended June 30, 2025, only for the specified project developed by the Board of Education and approved by the voters in accordance with Proposition 39 as specified in California Constitution. So in the next few pages, on pages 16, 17, we just talk about the legislative history of that. We have information related to the bond ballot language that was officially approved, information related to kind of how the project list that was developed by the CVOC for the use of this bonds, and then the objectives of our audits. And ultimately, we'll get into the scope on the next page. So the objective of our audit is looking at expenditures that took place during July 1st, 2024 through June 30th of 2025. So with that, the district expended roughly $1.65 million of expenditures. We looked at about 965,000 of those expenditures. That constitutes big dollar amounts, small dollar amounts, and that represented about 58% of the expenditure population. So with that, we're looking at information related to, the pre-approvals of those to make sure everything's being pre-approved before services are rendered or goods are received. We're looking at if it requires bidding, that the proper bidding channels are taking place, that the They're posted through respective, different trade journals, open into the newspaper, and that ultimately the lowest qualified bidder is being selected. And then with that, just on the very last page, we just say the conclusion of that, the results of our test indicated in all significant respects that the district properly accounted for the expenditures held in the Measure I general obligation bonds and that such expenditures were made for authorized bond projects. And that concludes the bond audit. Any questions?
Again, from our committee, were there any questions or discussions to note regarding this?
No,
Trustee Dorn?
just one that I brought up, and it was asking why we have the bond oversight committee when the auditors, in my mind, were doing essentially the same thing. And President Flamer explained it as.
The bond oversight committee is local and it just looks at, probably every 3 months. So it's the localized look at it. And what I could say daily, but it's not so much. But what Steve's group does is that he looks at it on an annual basis and he reports this to the state, whereas we don't have to do that. Local level.
And both processes are required by law.
Very much, yes.
And the recommendation of the audit committee regarding approval was?
To approve.
To accept.
Thank you. Do trustees have any further questions or comments? In that case, do I hear a motion to accept the final audit of the district and Measure I?
I move to accept.
So the audit committee approved it, now the board has to
Right,
accept.
that's accept. So it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of aye, excuse me. All those in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Curry, for being with us much of the day here and presenting the information to us.
Of course. Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you. Excuse me. So that brings us to a 5.3 grant emeritus status to Tom Fossey and Tiffany Schmidt-Pete. I move approval.
A second.
Okay. I would just, on behalf of the board, like to congratulate both of these people for achieving emeritus status and thank them for the years that they have worked at the college. And when you look at, in my mind, where you look at where we are today and how good so many things are, every person who has put 10, 15, 20, 25 years into this school carries, part of that success. So congratulations to both of them. Anything further? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, congratulations to them. That brings us to 5.4. Approving faculty tenure. And we have 6 faculty members who have achieved tenure status, been recommended to the board for tenure. Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve. I'll second.
That's moved and seconded. So again, I would comment on behalf of the board the same thing. These are newer people who are part of our success today and our success tomorrow. And the tenure process is rigorous, the faculty and the committees working with them. But this also is from the college's point of view, this is the college's investment in our future. And so we're very happy to have these faculty members on board for the, what we hope is the long term. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, and congratulations to all of them. That brings us to 5.5, first read of board policies and administrative procedures. And I will call on Trustee Rice to give us some information.
Sure, thank you. So the two, the board policy and two administrative policies that we reviewed are the result of some changes from CCLC. So the first, BP 2015, regarding student trustee, is to align the language with the information in the education code. The board policy 2345, I believe President Matthews had, in reviewing those, had identified that it could be enhanced by clarifying kind of the process by which participants could engage remotely. And so it adds in language to that effect. President Matthews and I, and this also would, this comment would apply to AP 2345, which does the same thing. We were grappling with whether the proposed language in the packet does specifically mention Zoom, and we were kind of grappling whether we should make it generic or if it's okay to mention Zoom, and didn't really know the right answer. So I thought that's one of the things for discussion and input from others. And then I'll just mention briefly AP 2325 regarding teleconferences is also to align with CCLC language suggested to, so it is updated the government code relative to that. Was that good? Is that what you needed? You know, the one thing we did need input on it, or probably want to think about is, does it matter if we mention Zoom or not?
I will comment in our discussion that Trustee Rice raised that question, which is legitimate because Zoom is actually a private company. We think of it generically, but it's actually not. And so it's legitimate to say, should we do that or not? Or should we say something like teleconferencing? And my view for myself is acknowledging that, in fact, we are doing that when we say Zoom, that in fact, we've been using Zoom for 5 years. We're likely to, so is the universe in many ways. And that our goal is to try and make it as clear as possible to the public how they can participate. So what we're doing is saying, here's what we're doing and here's how you can participate. So in my mind, this is more helpful. If we ever migrated from Zoom to something else, clearly we would have to redo the policy. But it is in fact mentioning specific technology. Trustee Biggin?
Thank you. I'm assuming that this language from the league was generated because of the changes in the Brown Act.
Yes.
And as in the code or wherever this changes are printed, does it refer to Zoom there? Or what does it say there?
Okay, this particular sentence, this particular insert was not from the league.
Okay,
It was our committee.
okay. Because my understanding is we are required to allow people to participate remotely, and have video and audio presence.
I think we are required for our trustees. I don't think we are required to have public comment available remotely. That's my understanding. It's not a legal requirement, but we have remote parts of our district.
Okay.
And so don't we want to be able to for people to comment remotely?
I think this is a good addition, for sure.
President Flamer, I'm correct that on the bottom line, we're not required to do we're not required to make remote comment possible. Okay. Any other comments, questions? Consensus is to leave this the way it is that where we are? Please come up for a vote on our next agenda in March. Okay, thank you.
Excuse me.
Yes,
Excuse me. I was just gonna suggest language like Zoom or a comparable conference platform.
okay,
I was actually checking to see if the term Zoom as associated with the brand, not just kind of zooming around, if that's been recognized as a word,
oh,
because they do recognize words eventually because they become so
Yeah.
so commonplace. And I'm not finding that yet,
yeah,
but I am seeing that, you know, some are saying Zoom or a comparable conference app. I didn't even recognize that
Well,
was the appropriate terminology.
we could add that. It would have changed the idea that at the moment you get in the chat to say you want to make a comment.
Yeah.
Trustee Gorman?
I agree with trustee Mullery because I actually did a teleconference with a different venue.
Mhm.
And so it's not always Zoom.
Right,
And so that's why I think you guys were right on in throwing this out for discussion.
If I can follow up, I think the use of the word Zoom is good because it's become so common.
Yeah.
People understand what Zoom is.
Yeah.
They might not understand conference platform, but if we said Zoom or comparable conference
Okay.
platform, that might be clear. It's all about clarity.
Trustee Rice, do you have it in writing next time?
I'll get it in writing. And they'll send you a bill for $100.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you for the suggestion. We all good? Okay. All right.
I have a.
Oh,
At our
sorry.
conference, we did have a part, because you mentioned about whether public comment could be. And it says members of the public must be allowed to place matters directly related to the district business on the agenda. Members of the public must be able to address the board regarding items on the agenda during the government.
Right.
But it doesn't mention
No,
anywhere.
that it has to be remote.
Right.
Yes, it's true, yeah,
That I
yeah, no,
pictures of.
that is the case. If we were much bigger, it would be different, but we're not. Okay, that brings us to 5.6, second read of board policies. We saw these last month and they've all been through the prescribed review process. I need a motion,
I so move for approval.
a second.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any question or discussion on any of these policies?
I continue to be confused about this because this group isn't within our wheelhouse. So I guess I'm not sure why we have to approve it. I mean, I'm happy to approve it, but I'm not sure it's appropriate for the board to approve it.
I believe that the board approves all policies.
Okay.
And so it does come to us. You're right. It's not in our purview. We
Right.
don't generate the review. We don't make recommendations. But all policies come to the board for approval.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now we come to informational reports. Recognitions, President Flamer.
Thank you. As always, this is one of my most favorite agenda items. You probably have received copies of our newsletters, both the athletic and general. And that would not have been possible without Molly Blakemore and JB and Jennifer Bailey. She is just a phenomenal author, and she has done a really good job of this. And no matter where I go, people always comment of how much they appreciate that information. So that was very good, but also recognizing Cory Watson for her outstanding award. And of course, Michelle August for her work in getting our employees what they need to file their taxes. So it's good that we never have a complaint, which means our payroll department is doing what they're supposed to do in a very stellar way. But also I want to call your attention to that very wonderful letter that a former student wrote about faculty and staff and their experience at CR. Again, this is the storytelling that we should all be engaged in as we talk to our communities. And that is it.
Thank you. Okay. We come now to organizational reports. And first, we have Academic Senate and President Bernadette Johnson. Welcome.
Afternoon. I don't have anything to add to my written report other than just congratulations to the faculty who received tenure. I also serve as one of the faculty mentors for our full-time faculty, and so I've had the privilege of working with this group of individuals, and I can just say that the college is better for having them here. So that's all I'll add, and I'll take it.
Trustee Dorn.
I just wanted to say, I thought your Let's Talk idea was really great. Hopefully you'll update us on how that works out.
Yes, I put in a marketing request today, so I think we're rolling along. I'm really excited it's coming together. It's with a lot of people involved, including President Lamb. So thank you for that.
Thank you. That brings us to CR&BO, President Kramer.
There he is.
Good afternoon.
I'm just gonna read.
Yeah, just make sure the mic is turned on.
Okay, thank you, yeah. You might won't be able to hear me very well, so I don't project too loudly compared to most I've been told. Thank you for having us on your agenda. I'm Eric Kramer, and I'm usually in the role of Vice President for CR&BO, but I'm stepping in as President of CR&BO this semester while I was on sabbatical. We have Amber Button stepping into the role of Vice President this semester. The district and CR&BO continue to work collegially in the SARCO problem-solving committee on issues that involve faculty work not described in our CBA. The topic we've been discussing more recently is dual enrollment under CCAP agreements with high schools. Dual enrollment courses are essentially CR courses taught at high schools for students following their calendars. These kinds of agreements are a tremendous opportunity for College of the Redwoods. I believe both sides participating in this discussion recognize that there is opportunity worth pursuing as well as potential impacts. CR&BO is sending some folks to the FAC Advocacy and Policy Conference on February 22nd and 23rd. Keynote speaker at this conference will be Assemblymember Patrick Ahrens. I had the opportunity to meet Patrick Ahrens last fall as part of a group sent by CCCI. I learned that he was formerly a community college student at De Anza. Our team will hopefully get to meet with representatives from Michael and Chris Rogers' offices. I believe that these kinds of meetings are important to bring awareness of our local issues to the Capitol and the lawmakers there. In the meetings I've attended in the past, both with staffers and the legislators themselves, there's often been a common ground of understanding about community college issues based on shared experience. I look forward to a productive semester for all of us here at CR&BO. Let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, and I hope the team will have a great visit. Contact with them again.
Thank you.
That brings us to classified and President Rachel Warzy.
She is not here today.
She's not here today. She did submit her report. Management Council President Lee. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me at your meeting. I don't have anything to add to the report that you have, other than to add congratulations to Tom Coffey and Tiffany Schmidtke both of whom are management council members, for their emeritus status. And to call your attention to the fact that Amber Kavanaugh is now vice president of management council.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And our student trustee, not here. All right, that moves us to item 8, administrative reports. 8.1, President Flamer.
Thank you. If you have questions about what I've written, feel free to ask me, of course, but I do want to make 2 very quick comments. One is we should, and I'm knock on wood if there was any, we should make the playoffs for men's and women's basketball.
Wow.
So, which is very, very great thing for us. So we should know sometime this week after a couple games, whether we're gonna host or we have to be away in playoffs. So this is very good for our community. Trustee Biggin mentioned about FICMAT reports. And I look at the FICMAT report annually. Every time we talk about the budget, I go through every one of those, I guess I'd call them standards, but those actions that an external group would evaluate us on as we look at the budget. Knowing that whatever we put in the budget in terms of the board reports, that shows evidence of whether we are at risk or we're not. But also when the board approves the audit, that is one of those key pieces that I look at. Not just FICMAT, but standard 4 with the commission. So we don't do the budget, or we don't create the budget in a vacuum. We look at what other people would see in us as we develop the budget and we approve contracts. And so we look at all these things and we look at the budget. So if the board would like some professional development about what FICMAT means, feel free to direct me to do so. But I have a file that is about 2 inches thick, and the last time we went through the FICMAT report, and that was not a comfortable feeling. So I make sure that the district will never have to go through that again.
Trustee Ross.
What is it?
FICMAT is fiscal management and something.
Oh, it's an acronym.
Yeah, it's an acronym for
Got it.
fiscal management,
It's okay. Thank you.
which is external to the chancellor's office and the state.
In my personal opinion, I think that would be very good for the board to have a kind of a education on FICMAT and what it involves and how it plays a role. Those of us who are here during show cause are well familiar with FICMAT.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of new trustees who are not, and so we might put that on a future agenda. Great, thank you. Trustee Rice.
The 4241 FTES, which is high, so that's really good, right?
Yes.
Just over the page.
Good job.
Well, we don't know because it's growth money, right? That's a good point. So when you said that that's a good thing, I'm thinking, yes,
For the students, it's good.
and for us, it is also good for the district.
Sure.
Just
And the
thank you.
community,
No.
I mean, yeah.
Gotcha. That's cool. I just thought that was really
Actually,
worth noting.
it shows that we're doing a lot of good things.
And how does that relate to historic numbers? Are we like back recovered or?
Oh, yes, actually, we are 12.7% above where we were pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes,
Nice.
excellent.
Excuse me.
Trustee
I
Biggin.
wanted to say, as I drove in today and I saw all the cars in the parking lot, that was such a good example of the hard work that faculty and administration have done to increase the enrollment. And I know when I drive by the instructional side in Hoopa and I see all those cars parked outside the center, it just makes my heart skip a beat. Because they're there for their thirst for learning. And I've never seen this many cars coming to a board meeting. I mean, I can't remember when I saw that many cars. So thank you for all the work that everyone's doing to increase the enrollment.
And a lot of districts, state are
Are
not
not-
growing.
are not growing.
So really, and especially for our small area to be growing, we don't have as much to pull from sometimes.
Well,
Very true.
So because you mentioned the audit, I'm going to go back to that just for a second, because I didn't make a comment. I was gratified, I guess, as well as reassured perhaps, to see that the audit reflected exactly the same concerns, no coincidence, I realize, for our future finances as our audit report does, which to me means we are exactly on target for identifying what those concerns are.
Yes.
That a state, not that, they're not a state, but that a professional audit working with schools all over is identifying the same things that we're identifying as
It's true.
future concern. Okay. 8.2, Vice President of Administrative Services.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. I don't have anything to add to my report, but I would be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. I had one, but I already asked it. Anything? Or thank you. And thank you again on all our behalf for the work of your whole department, yourself on the
Yes,
audit and everything it takes to get us to a good audit. That's the point.
yeah, it's a district-wide effort. Thank you.
Okay, Vice President of Instruction and Student Development, Dr. Morse.
Thank you. Good afternoon. The only thing I'd like to add to my written report is extending my personal congratulations to the faculty who've been approved for tenure. And congratulations for the years of hard work leading to this moment. And also the board's approval of our emeritus status for Tom Cossey and Alicia McKee. So just a little, just to give a concept of how much of an impact they've had. They were the initial employees put into our database system, DataCount. And so they have the oldest, literally the oldest employee identification numbers for the district at this time. There's only a third person that's near those two in the number of digits in their employee ID number. So just as an example, most employees have a 6 to 7 digit employee ID number. There's our four digits. So
They keep this too.
he's in that original batch of 4 digit employee.
Dang, I feel super old now.
A lot of institutional knowledge. I'm happy to address any questions you may have.
Trustee Rice.
I just had an observation that Mr. Cossey's career spanned, like the first time I remember interacting with the internet
Oh,
in
yeah.
'93 to our discussions
Yeah.
about, I actually uploaded the audit report into AI to see what it would say, which it incidentally said, "This is very clean." But it's just funny that career. I mean, that's the remarkable
You've seen a lot.
transition, and it's crazy.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, written notes, just really very quickly. I was looking at your flex schedule. And I was really drawn to all things, the stitching online. Because back in the day, in my former life, when I was at Humboldt, there was a lunchtime group and we would get together and, cry when we lost a stitch or whatever. And I recently have been, I recently downloaded a pattern, so I have to kind of relearn my knitting from a site in Minneapolis. They're I shouldn't go into it too much, but you have a hard time finding red yarn these days in Minneapolis. Sold out. Fortunately, I had a skein of red yarn, so I'll be able to use this pattern that I downloaded from a yarn shop in Minneapolis. And the download makes contributions to wherever, whatever's going on in Minneapolis. So I I was really struck by that particular item because I need help right now.
Can you help her?
I can help her.
You can help. Trustee Baucus today.
Larson is our local staff member to actually lead that session. She's a phenomenal human.
Okay, well, thank you. I just think it's a very relaxing way to kind of let out some stress.
You should have brought, Egyptian cotton yarn back for McKinney. You should have asked me.
What has to be read?
They had bread.
Okay, thank you. Executive Director of the Foundation,
He's not here today.
he's not here today. That brings us future agenda items. We've discussed the idea of some education on FICMAT. Are there any other suggestions? Is everybody on board? Is this a good idea?
I think it's an excellent idea. I think it will even be a more important idea when we have a new president on board, especially if she or he is not coming from within the community college system, but even if they are. So, I mean, I don't know if you'd want to delay that long, but I think it would really be an important session for a new president.
I wouldn't see a need to delay it because revisiting it never hurts anybody.
You're right, you're right.
It'd be nice for us to know that.
Yes. Before, yes,
It's just a matter of fitting it in because it's such a busy year,
yeah.
but
We do have a retreat in August, so we could consider it.
yeah, no, it's a great idea.
A thought on my mind, especially following Trustee Biggins' report, and because we see it in our own reports, is getting some sense campus-wide how AI is being used already and how we might use it in the future, and what do we need to be on guard for or on the watch for with that. That's a very generic idea, so we can think about it some more. But what do you think?
When I watched the system-wide webinar and they talked about PlayLab, they had a little dot, it looked like it was right here in Humboldt County. I wonder, are we doing some field work with the PlayLab AI that they could share their work with us?
Great question. I have no idea what PlayLab AI is, but I don't know, but we could talk about that.
Okay.
Well, maybe we can think what is it we need to know that we don't know about AI?
Well,
here
and how we
from the
stay
board-
at that, at
from
the
the
high
board's
level.
point of
Yeah,
view.
we don't get into the.
Yeah, I'm not
weeds.
talking
Yeah.
about lessons.
I just want to mention that President Flamer appointed that robust committee on AI that is going to give us results, and I believe we have one of the members here.
Okay,
If I can address that, is that, the board should have a final report from the task force at the July board meeting.
okay. Well, that would be a good spot for us to see if there's something else we think we don't know.
It was called an AI Fellows Program.
Oh, sure.
That's,
Yeah.
and they use PlayLab as, PlayLab providing a lot of support and resources. One other question. I don't know if we need to do this right away, but when they were talking about funding, they said to really monitor our online attendance and our dual enrollment attendance. And they said it's good to see like a 3-year projection. And maybe we have that someplace already,
I'm sure we do.
but that's such a good way to create additional funding for the future is through those two programs.
If I may,
Yes.
we actually talk about that as we build the budget, long-term budget forecast, and looking at what are the targets by division, not just face-to-face, but online and dual enrollment, et cetera, but also adult education.
Yeah.
Anything further? By the trustees? If not, this meeting is adjourned.